Hello, everyone. This is Ella Barnard of the Creative Ladies Coalition, and we are having a conversation with creative ladies. See? Oops. We're in conversations with creative ladies. These are conversations with artists and entrepreneurs that are making a difference in the world, making the world a better place. So we're so glad to have you here. So today we have photographer Gina. Oh, probably should have checked that. Gina.
Cinardo.
Cinardo.
Cinardo. It's Italian, so Cinardo is what you want to say.
Cinardo. Okay. She is. Thank you. She is a portrait photographer. She specializes in helping driven professionals become branded online, and she's been doing this for over 25 years. Which is a little bit hard to believe considering you don't look like, so you started when you were 5?
Well, I have a degree in fine art photography. So I graduated in 91. So I was doing everything in film back then. Film. Dark room, the whole thing.
Oh, nice. That's there's such a romantic dark room. Ooh.
Well, it didn't smell that romantic, but I was a good printer. I was definitely a good printer, which is why I'm a Photoshop nerd now.
Awesome. Okay. So let's get started. So first I wanted to ask you, basically how did you get into photography? What is your story from art to photography?
Well, my mom and dad were very artistic, and my dad was a photographer. He actually had a lab in Hollywood in the 60s and 70s. It was a black and white custom print shop, and he had a studio set up in the home. So I was always surrounded by photography, and there were prints always laying around. And my mom was an artist, so she liked to paint. So one of the things that we did when we were growing up is my parents would rent these costumes from NBC Wardrobe because they knew people there. Yay. And we'd get all these costumes together and we'd create these scenes. And it was a lot of fun because I got to dress up in sometimes pretty clothes. And one time we did this whole Western scene and I had a cowboy hat on. And then we would photograph either at my dad's studio or at home in the backyard. And it was so much fun. So I loved playing dress up. But, I wasn't really aspiring to be a model. I was more aspiring to be the photographer. And so when my dad first gave me my first camera, I was just taking pictures of everything and my friends. And that's how I got started. And when I was in high school, I took all kinds of art, but photography was that was my primary focus. So when I graduated from high school, it was not even a question. I was going to get a degree in fine art photography. So that's what happened. And that's how it all started.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was fun though. I mean, playing dress up, come on. I think I wore a beautiful Southern Belle costume once and the label on the inside said Liza. I'm like, could that be? I don't know if it was. The only problem was I was 10 and I think we had to take it out.
You must have some incredible photos of you through your childhood. I bet you just have the best pictures. You're and here's me.
I do have some really cool pictures because how many people have 8x10 photographs of themselves, but the only thing was my dad went gung-ho when my brother was born and then he kind of tapered off a little bit when I was born. Even though I was the cute little girl, but we still did lots of photos.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. So how did you go from fine art photography to business photography out of curiosity? How did that work?
Yeah, that's a good question because I went straight from college to working at a print shop. And I was a pre-press and graphic artist. I worked on the first Macs. I was a Mac girl from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so I became a graphic artist too. And so in that case, I was always a service person working for people and helping them with their marketing and business cards and flyers, brochures, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up working in the printing industry. And then I still love photography. I did photography on the side, but I did manage a studio for about 11 years, and we did
Oh, wow.
glamour. We did glamour and all kinds of stuff. It was families. It was a wonderful experience. But after I did that, I ended up working back in the printing industry for a while, and I worked for the Air Force for a while as a contractor doing photography and graphics. So I've kind of always had this mindset of graphic design and marketing. And so it just sort of took me away from the fine art. But fine art as a business is something that I still like to do. It's just not something I'm tapping into at the moment. It's just, but I still photograph things that I think are beautiful and inspire me just on a personal level, which eventually is going to be a big exhibit. That will happen someday. So there's creative stuff, but I still consider what I do when I photograph people and whatever to be artistic, because it's my vision and it's kind of what I'm feeling in the moment that inspires me to take the picture and to shoot it. So
Yeah. I was talking with a couple of interviews ago, a friend of mine, Christian, and we were talking about the spectrum of photography. So if anybody's curious about checking that out, but there's he was talking about a spectrum of the fine art to the commercial. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like, but, and the thing that he was really brought up that I was like, is that you as the photographer bringing the art into like portrait photography, like you get to bring that creativity and art into it, and I would like to hear a little bit more about how do you do that?
Well, it's when you study it too, it is an art form, because you're still studying color and light, and it's not just all the technical parts to it, and how to use a camera and all that stuff. But when you know all that too, there's composition, and there's feeling, and there's mood, and there's emotion. Photography tells a story, and every photograph you see should say something to you, even if it's just a snapshot. And that people love photography because they share photographs online all the time. So, I think the stats is like on Facebook alone, 136,000 photos are uploaded daily. So everybody loves photography. And one of the reasons why too is because when they see a photograph of something that is beautiful or emotional or sexy or hot or controversial, they see it as real because it's a photographic image. It was captured in a moment, a specific moment. So it's a powerful art source or art form, because it's not just a beautiful, pretty picture of a woman standing in a field with, daisies and stuff. It's a little bit more. It tells more of a story, and people really see it as something that was something, an actual moment of time. And I think that's kind of what makes it more powerful. And that's kind of how it inspires me too. It's like when I'm photographing a person or whatever, I see it as, oh, this is the perfect moment. And then I capture it. So it's really about that. It's the moments that I think that are the thing that really sort of turns me on when I photograph.
Yeah.
So there you go. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. No, it was, I was like, oh, photography. I love that. Especially now I'm curious though, because you're doing portrait photography. So for business people, I'm assuming, for their online presence, right? So people like maybe me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do my style is lifestyle photography, which is basically, in general, it is the art of the everyday, so it's capturing moments based on someone's reactions to something. It's also capturing moments of specific events, life turning events like a graduation and so forth, high school seniors. So I can do all that stuff too. Yeah.
But the branding in the business is just a niche that I thought was so powerful, because, I love making women especially look beautiful. I want to tell their story and show how amazing they are. And so it's really trying to find out the background of it. So, I don't know what your questioning is going to be, because I have this planned out for later, but so I was going to talk more about the branding. The branding is really about the intention of, I want to be able to have that intention when I'm photographing somebody. So I kind of know what direction to go to. So there's a lot of planning involved, and that's part of the artistic process too, because if you really know what you're going to be photographing and know what you're going to be shooting and know what the intention is behind it, then you're going to make a better impact. So when I photograph and brand somebody, it's not just taking pretty pictures of them. It's finding out what their personality is like, what their nuances are like, what's their character, what are their values. And I also talk to them about who they want to attract in their life, like who is their ideal customer, because they're going to be seen a specific way to all kinds of people. But if they want a specific type of customer, then they need to resonate with that kind of customer. Those are the ones that they're going to get along with the most, and they're going to attract the most, and that's going to work the best for them. So it tells a whole story. It's not just one picture. It's a whole portfolio of pictures. You can tell I'm Italian. I use my hands a lot.
It's a whole bunch of pictures.
It is a whole bunch of pictures. You got it.
So something when you said, I really like that, because you were talking about of capturing women's beauty. I really think even for business and lifestyle, I think that women, there's a lot of confidence because in that you can generate, because when women look in the mirror and see themselves versus a photographer coming and capturing a picture of them, and how often do you see the picture and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that's what I looked like. I didn't know I looked that good. Like there's this power and confidence that I imagine, and I'm curious if maybe you have some kind of story or something that of that confidence translating into actual creativity in their business, or just business. I don't know. Just I'm curious. You know what I'm getting at.
I totally know what you're getting at. So, I mean, a lot of times when you start a business, women really are not sure what to do. It's challenging. I like making jewelry, but how do you sell it? How do you do it? How do you have a business? That's the challenge, and telling the world about it. Mm-hmm. So when you brand yourself, when you brand your face, when you brand your self-image, people are going to really resonate with what you are about. People nowadays like the stories. Everybody is online. Everybody has a story to tell. And it's more important to find out who that person is that sells those products. They're more likely to buy it from you if they like you and if they understand your background, they understand your passion. So what I'm kind of helping with is telling the story, is setting the sort of groundwork. Because you can put selfies online, you can have a picture taken by a friend in front of a pretty tree, and it's not going to be impactful. It's just going to be a selfie. It's going to be a snapshot. And so I think when you have this whole professional persona of yourself, it gives you that total sense of confidence. It also helps define you a little bit and makes you walk your path that you have already defined easier than if you just have a couple of pictures of yourself. It really does tell the story of who you are and what you are about. So I think I give people, women especially, because most of my clients are women. Mm-hmm. Not all of them. But I give them the confidence because now they have this defined sort of brand, this persona. They have a mission that stands behind that brand. And it's so much easier to tell the story when you know what that is. And so if you have that to back you up, it just makes it so much easier. Now, you may have already defined a business. You may not have. It doesn't matter the steps so far, but if you really have that presence out there, you're going to claim it better. You're going to be able to define it, or you're just going to be able to claim it. I think that's the best thing. The best way to describe it.
Yeah. And confidently, because because listen, the way I look at myself in the mirror and the way I look at, professional photographs taken of me, totally different. I'm able to be like, own, and this is what you're saying, like own who it's almost like owning who you're going to be before you are that person, because you have photographs of it. Totally. Like before you maybe feel you are that person, you are that person already, women, ladies. You already are that person, but there's a gap sometimes between feeling like we are that person and owning it. And I think professional photographs help you bridge that gap between who you feel like you are. Like, I'm just starting this new business. And then you get these professional photographs and you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay. I'm like one step closer.
That is me.
I do have this business. Like, I am a businesswoman. I have photographs of it. And you still have to bridge that gap. But I think that that's a big step that maybe people don't always think about.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and to me too, it's not just photographing them. I mean, I want it to be a fun experience. Okay, so back in the glamour shot days, all those
I have
goofy stuff.
I have an old. Oh, it's goofy.
It's amazing how many people have never had a professional portrait, and even people who have that mindset of the 80s, 90s photography, family portraits, and I understand that it's kind of scary to plan that kind of thing. But this is where I hope my experience makes it so much easier, because I help them define everything. So I not only define their personality, their brand persona, but I also define who their audience is. And this helps me give them lots of tips on wardrobe. I even have a style consultant I work with that actually will help them go through their closet and pick things out. And it makes it so much easier that the day of your shoot, you're just sort of like, all right, I am ready to shine, shine, shine.
That is so cool. You see, we have a comment from Megan Barnhard. She says, photographs of the future you. Wow. What a cool way to think of your professional photos.
Absolutely.
She said, I have definitely experienced that feeling with photos from Gina Cinardo.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, she said
Megan is. Go ahead.
She's our mutual friend.
She's a great model. She knows I'm going to photograph her again too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think that see, what a lot of people don't understand is that when they put pictures online right now, they're actually already branding themselves. So this is going to make their business much easier. It's much easier to market yourself when you actually have a pretty well-defined brand already. And it can be a logo, but it depends on the type of business you are. I mean, right now everybody is so online and so it's so visual. You're telling a story instantly with photos that it just makes it so much nicer and easier. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that we've disconnected so much from technology, but in a way that we're reconnecting is by instead of being your logo online, you are yourself online. It's a way for people to, because people are so sensitive now. They can tell when it's you or not you. Like, people can tell when you're being real and authentic and not. And I think that's another way professional photographs with somebody who knows how to capture your inner spirit, which is something I saw on your website. Like, I think that's important, because like you said, you already are having a brand. You already are a brand with whatever you put online. And I also, all these things are coming together in my mind because I think women are also gaining, like, because it's so easy to be a presence, because it's so easy to start a business, because it's so easy to be out there on the internet. I think, I don't know. Women are going to transform the world, and we're going to make the world a better place. And part of what could help us with that is having awesome photographs.
Yeah. Well, I think
of our inner spirit, of our authentic self.
Authentic self. And that's really what I definitely strive for, because I don't want to make everybody look like they're fake online. I mean, it's really trying to capture their inner self. And like I said, that's the whole story. It's not just one picture. But the thing too is you're giving people an instant impression of yourself when they see this sort of portfolio of you, and the impression is that you're intelligent, you have self-confidence, and that you are serious about business. That's some of the three top things that people get the impression of just by seeing a really nice looking brand of yourself. Yeah. And so in general, if you're branding yourself right now with just a couple of selfies or snapshots, then it's not going to give as good of an impression. So why not take control of how people see you by giving them the right impression instantly. And it's not fake. It's genuine photos of yourself that represent you in a genuine way, but just really polished and looking good.
Yeah. Well, and people can see, like, if you're playful, people can see if you're serious, people can see like all first impressions. There's a lot that people see, way more than we know that we see.
Yeah. It only takes a few seconds to get a first impression. Definitely. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you really love about portrait photography? Like, maybe, do you have a good story or two or to go along with some of your favorite things?
Well, I love interacting with people, and you had one question on here that's like, what are your barriers and challenges? So I'm going to kind of tap into that because lifestyle photography is it's not just capturing still life or anything like that. You have to interact with people. So if you're thinking about doing this as a profession, you cannot be shy. You can definitely not be shy. And I've had to break out of my shell to do this. And I didn't think that I would be a portrait photographer, but yet in college, I loved portrait photography as an art form. But I was also very shy. So I've changed a lot since then. So I go crazy sometimes. I am not a mellow photographer. I am like on furniture. I'm yelling. I'm making loud noises. I'm laughing. I'm being stupid and goofy. I'm tripping over things. I'm like making people laugh. I play games. I do all kinds of stuff to get those expressions out of people. So it's not like I'm going to say, give me a sexy look. I don't do that.
Which is really difficult. But I love that because vulnerability brings out vulnerability. So when you are able to be that person where you're like, I'm doing this, like you've accessed that vulnerability because you said you were shy. So you've accessed that vulnerability and are comfortable now.
Yeah.
And vulnerability calls to vulnerability. When people open up your heart, when you open up your heart, it calls to other people to open up their hearts. And that must be why you make such amazing photographs.
Oh, thank you. That's very well put. Thank you, Ella. Well, I mean, so the challenge is that it can be mentally and emotionally and physically sometimes very challenging. So I like doing photo shoots of people and short events, because sometimes a full 8-hour day can be totally exhausting. But then I definitely have to get help in that case. I always have a second shooter for larger events. But yeah, so that's the challenge. But it's still fun. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, it's funny because I'm a graphic designer too. So I tend to really hunker down into my little office and work on photos and editing and graphics and Photoshop and all that stuff. But photography is such a nice, great expression, and it's physical. So it's a great balance, I think. But I like being out on the field. So in the studio.
Well, and that might be one of the other challenges that this is interesting, people who are like to be more at home, because I don't think people know how much time of photography is spent like in the office in front of your computer. Like,
I know, it really is. There's a lot of editing, lots of editing,
So it can appeal to a broad range of people then, because it could appeal to the people who like to just spend time by themselves, doing art, and the people who like to be out, taking pictures and interacting.
Exactly.
Nice,
I mean, so I do. I'm very right brain and left brain.
Yeah.
I'm technical and creative all at the same time.
Yeah. And that's awesome. So, do you have a story? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. Do you like follow up? Yeah. Tell a story.
Yeah, I have a lot of stories.
Yeah. Tell me.
I love some of the projects I'm working on now, which are great. But I think here's a good story, because this is a long time ago. I photographed this woman who was pregnant, and she came in because I think maybe her family said, "Oh, get some portraits of you with the baby and, the baby bump." And she was pretty big. She was probably a good 8 months or more. She was ready. Wow. Yeah. So, and I know when you're that big and swollen and not feeling well, you don't feel sexy or pretty or anything like that. Well, this story was basically this client that I had. This was the first time I realized how impactful what I do really is, because she looked at her pictures and burst into tears.
Oh.
Absolutely. And it wasn't a bad sad. Dad said
Yeah.
she just could not believe how amazing she looked. And, you know, we did very soft, beautiful, natural photos. It wasn't like I did, sexy. She's pregnant. So we do the baby bump poses and the soft poses. And she was just floored. And she wrote me the best testimonial, and I still have it. And this was probably in the 90s. So I think that's what inspired me the most to do what I do now, because I love, and I hate to say this, I love making women cry, but in a good way. I mean, that's my goal. Not every woman's going to cry. I mean, but that's okay. But especially when you're just feeling down, and she was just feeling down. She was ready to have a baby, and she just felt amazing in the pictures. She was just so grateful, and that was so powerful for me. And I think that's really what drove me to kind of where I am right now, because I wanted to make that kind of difference. I'd like to be a mentor for women. And so this is one great way for me to give people a nice boost of confidence.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Photography as therapy.
Yes, exactly.
I say I love that, and I laugh, but I actually think that women seeing themselves as beautiful, like seeing themselves from outside their own point of view, from outside their head, which is looking at all, you look in the mirror and the first thing you see are your flaws. I'm looking at the screen right now and I'm like, my hair, how does my hair look?
I know, I totally know. I mean, I relate. All I see is these leaky glasses and
right. So we have this, but photography gives you get to see yourself without that your mental glasses that are, keeping you from seeing your true beauty. I think
exactly. And it's funny because I always address too with women, like, well, what are you self-conscious about? But when you're doing lifestyle and you're just photographing kind of candidly, I pose people for the most flattering and best angles, but I also like to capture them in the moment. And sometimes the moment is like this,
Yeah,
maybe not that cheesy, because I can be cheesy.
But sometimes it is a cheesy personality, like maybe
right, exactly. So it might not be the most flattering pose or angle or anything like that at that particular moment, but it's still beautiful because it's you. It's like you shining. But for the most part too, women still are very, very self-conscious of themselves, and I think that's one of the fears they have when they hire somebody. Because they're just like, well, what if my blah, blah, blah shows? And what if this is when I don't like my wrinkles? And I understand that. It's just, I just wish women would realize that is not what is important. It's not.
And I think having someone like you be the photographer, and that's maybe where it comes to choosing your photographer, because I've had an experience or two where it wasn't the right photographer for the context, it was like, so it made it awkward instead of comfortable, when it should have been, it got more and more and more awkward as the experience went on, rather than more and more and more comfortable, which is what I would imagine a good photographer. You start out like, what do I do? And then you get ease into it, and it was the opposite. And so that's interesting. You have a question?
I totally relate. I mean, and it takes a while to get to that point where you're really comfortable with people. I know that I give people a really good experience, but sometimes newer photographers are just getting into it, and it's really about relating. I mean, being a good portrait photographer is about relating to your customer or to your client, to your subject.
Yeah. We have a question. If someone has a limited budget, how would you recommend she get started with professional photos for business? What is a good entrance point?
Well, a good entrance point would be to just come in and get a headshot done, because a good professional headshot is still a lot better than a selfie or a snapshot that someone's taken in front of a tree or Christmas tree. Yep. So,
you've obviously, like, there's a memory in there. You're like I saw that one time.
well, it's like people gussy up there, get dressed up for holidays, and so a lot of get holiday pictures. But and so that's the first start. And then my bigger, larger packages that define you and brand you, and I go out and I photograph you a little bit more. You can certainly do 3 payments. There's ways to do it. It's an investment because it's not just an investment in having really nice portraits taken and be able to use it on your social media profiles and in your about page. A headshot is great, but a headshot is not all that you need, because there's definitely other ways that you're going to use your photographs to tell your story, especially if you're into content marketing and blogging, because you're going to want big portraits, landscape format, so that you can add text and images and tell stories. And so there's totally much more to it than just a headshot, but a headshot's a great beginning.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you so much. If anybody has some questions, I'm sure that Gina will be in the Facebook Creative Ladies group. And you can go ahead and put your questions on this video. Okay. Does that work for you, Gina?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. And so if you have more questions, she'll be in there replying, and go ahead and put them on this video and she'll be able to reply. I'm going to show you where you can find Gina here. You can find her at, you go ahead and say it.
Ginichi Studios. So it's like Gucci, but Ginichi. GinichiStudios.com.
Okay. And then you can also find her on Facebook here.
Facebook Ginichi.
Yes. And can you find some of samples of your photographs on the Facebook? Like, can we see some of your photographs there?
Yeah, and just go to my photos, and I post photos of new clients all the time. Okay. Or you can go to my website. I have a pretty
awesome
extensive portfolio.
And here's her Twitter handle. So if you want to follow her on Twitter, and then of course you can find me and have more and be part of more awesome conversations. I'm at ellabarnard.com. Oh, I didn't even have my own ready. I was so gung-ho about Gina. So this is where I can be found. Or, of course, in the Creative Ladies Coalition Facebook group, which is so much fun, full of creative women and growing every day. We're so happy to have you, Gina. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.